Well, in its earliest days, Oxford was very different from what it is now, primarily because it wasn't a collegiate university. The first colleges were founded at the end of the 13th century, and the university, in a way, had been going for 2 centuries by that time. And indeed, until the end of the 15th century, the colleges in no way dominated the university as a whole. So it was very much a university of masters and students who were not attached to a collegiate institution at all. I think that would be probably the main difference between then and now in terms of structure. And of course, if you went back to the first century of its existence in the 12th century, there was no administrative organisation whatsoever. It was just a collection of ad hoc and itinerant masters who hired space in buildings in the town and taught students. So it was, I think, a very different place in that regard. Oxford in the 19th century was an important university, evidently, in this country, as we only had 2 at the time before London was founded. But as a world university, or even a European university, it was not terribly significant at all. What really, I think, changed Oxford was a decision in the early 20th century, that was a decision primarily associated with the then Chancellor, Lord Curzon, to make a much greater, or give a much greater role to the sciences than had been the case before. And just on the eve of the First World War, 2 very important scientists were brought in, physiologists from Liverpool called Sherrington, and a chemist from Manchester called Perkin. And they really were the foundation for what became a very significant and fast-growing centre for the research in the sciences in the period between the wars. And I think that was very significant as a moment when Oxford decided it was going to become part of this new world of research science, which it hadn't really been before in any way at all. I suppose the biggest difference, if we compare it with other important universities, is the existence of this collegiate organisation, which doesn't really exist in the same way outside Oxford and Cambridge, and makes, I think, running the university in a way much more difficult than it might be otherwise. The other big difference, and that something goes right back to the beginning, is the extent to which the dons control what goes on in most other universities apart from Oxford and Cambridge. The governing body of the university consists of a mix of kind of insiders and outsiders, but the ordinary mortals who run the place and teach in the place have little control of what goes on at all. But obviously that's very different in the case of Oxford, given the central power of congregation.